Some of you guys may know I have had a fitness transformation of sorts. I've lost 30 pounds in 12 weeks, and that was about 8 weeks ago. So I've been able to keep it off. And this is the man that's walked me through this. Walked me through it not just in a pragmatic nutritional sense, but in a spiritual addiction mindset level. And we're going to talk about all of it. There's no secrets we're going to keep. There's nothing he's going to hold back. We're going to get to know his story a little bit. We're going to look at a couple videos, maybe some reaction stuff with some other fitness influencers in the space or just influencers in the space. And without any further ado, we have Coach JT Tapias. Is it Tobias how you say it? Tapias. Oh, man. I keep saying Tobias on the stream.
Right.
Zach, can you turn him up a hair? Because I could tell he's already going to be more quiet than I am. Okay, Coach, for folks who don't know you, give us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you got into doing this Empty Your Bucket plan.
Yeah, so Empty Your Bucket plan has been around for a long time, 23 years to be exact.
Wait. It's your program, right?
Yeah.
Hold on. How old are you?
You see?
What in the world? This man said 23 years.
Well, first of all, you got to sleep in the fridge, right? That's the first trick. Second trick is nutrition, movement. But yeah, man, I've always been into the whole fitness, thing. I started playing soccer at a young age. Started with martial arts, transitioned into soccer.
Okay.
Went over to Europe at the age of 17. Played in Spain and Mexico. Came back here and ended my career here. Well, they ended my career at 24.
So how elite level were you with soccer?
So I went to Spain and I was in the Division 1 La Liga.
Okay.
But I didn't actually get to play. A lot of things happened when I went to that team for the very first time. That team, Real Zaragoza, took off.
Okay.
Right. They won a Champions League, and so they had 4 foreigners. I'm originally from Colombia.
Okay.
So it's considered, a foreigner. So I couldn't be signed on to the team. But I was training with the first team and then playing with the second division team. And I was just they were waiting for transitions to happen and for me to come in. So I was there for about 3.5 years.
Okay.
And then from there, I wasn't getting any game time. I got sold over to a team in Mexico. Went to Mexico to Guadalajara, and I was there for 2.5 years. Had some tricky situations there. Soccer there is, it's a religion, right? And so a lot of money, big television networks own teams, a lot of under the radar guys, right? And so one of those guys was my agent, and some things happened. We got really tricky. I was dating, at the time I was dating his niece. He wasn't too happy about that. So I got a notice where I had 2 days to leave the country or else.
Oof.
So
you got out of there.
Well, that's why I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
So I left.
Was there some stuff like with the cartels and that whole world? Because I'm sure there's some overlap there with soccer cartels, that whole thing.
Yeah. He was one of the big guys, big names in Colombia at the time, and he was there in Mexico doing his thing as well.
And he was an agent.
Yeah, he's the money guy.
Got it.
There were attorneys involved, and they were the ones calling themselves my agent, but he was the money guy.
Interesting.
And so, he warned me once. He said, this is not, this is like a daughter to me. You're a soccer player. I know what you guys are all about. I wasn't a safe man at the time. So, he basically kicked me out of the country. Yeah. And he had my player pass. He had all the rights to my pass. So I came back here and tried a couple of things, but it just didn't work out, and ended up deciding that it was best for me to just go back to school.
Got it.
And
was there a desire to continue being a professional athlete at that point, and this kind of happened by happenstance, or was it kind of like, man, I'm getting older, my body's wearing out,
Yeah, so I started to take inventory, and at that point I was 24 years old, which for a soccer player, if you're not in your prime, most likely you're left out.
Yeah.
So I knew that I still had an opportunity to play college ball, Division II. I couldn't play Division I because I had already played pro. So,
okay.
So I got I had some options there. Went for the options. That was kind of the safe route. And then, I think like most professional athletes that get dropped off, I was depressed big time for 9 months.
Oh yeah.
And I had no passion for for anything, but I just started to rationalize and think, I have some knowledge here that I've acquired through coaches and trainers, and I said I can do this and I enjoy this, right? This is my thing. So I came back to my first love, opened up a tiny studio, 400 square feet in a very gym saturated market. I'm talking 30 gyms in a 5-mile radius.
Where is this at?
Tampa, Florida.
Tampa, Florida. I didn't know Tampa, Florida was that saturated with gyms.
Oh man, I saw some crazy statistic about it's like the number 2 most vain city in America.
Really?
Oh yeah. Spas and salons and gyms.
Yeah. I like Tampa. I've been to Tampa a handful
Tampa's
of times.
amazing.
Yeah.
Tampa's an amazing city. So, I had all the naysayers going, JT, what are you going to do in 400 square square foot
tiny.
facility, right? Yeah. So I knew 2 things. I knew that I wanted to bring something competitive to the market, and I needed to differentiate myself. So the way I did that was I was very, I started to survey what everyone was doing. And I noticed quickly that most gyms and the high-end gyms and the the big names in the industry, they were all just bringing people on the floor and training. No one was talking nutrition. I'm like, okay, here's my hook, right? So then I went after that, and I just became, obsessed with the idea of hacking people's nutrition plan, because what I kept hearing day after day, people would come through my door and say, I went on keto, I went on South Beach, I went on macro counting, and gained the weight back.
Yep.
So I was like, man, there has to be a way for me to tweak this in a way where general population, and the joke became take couch potatoes and make them into super potatoes in no time.
Yep.
Right. The idea was speed. So we started to really survey all of the different plans that were out there. And it was like a P&L statement. This is positive, this is negative, this is, and then we just took the best of every single fad that was out there.
Yeah.
And then we solidified and we created sequences. For me, one of my big passions is the idea of really helping people from a behavioral standpoint. And so we added some components to that. That's my background as a clinical counselor with a master's degree in eating disorders and substance abuse.
So when did that come into play? Because I know you got the master's degree, which is, again, extremely helpful for when you're talking and coaching somebody through this. When did the master's degree come into play?
So that actually, I took a little while to go back to school. So I went to school, got a counseling degree, kind of transitioned into full-time into the gym, working many hours at the gym, 60, 70 hours. I mean, just crazy.
This is the gym you were running, the 400 square foot gym?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I ran that tiny little studio for three years.
Okay.
And then we transitioned into a bigger gym. We brought on trainers. We were training all the celebrities in town. And the big, the thing that brought everyone in was like, this dude is transforming people radically, right? And so I went from being a 400 square foot facility where no one thought I was going to do anything to people raving and us growing really, really rapidly. And so to that concept, we added HIIT training because we wanted that community component of it. We knew that was good for people to stay on board and create that community that really helps people with sustainability. So we added that component to it. We added the nutrition. We started doing challenges, 6-week challenges, 8-week challenges, 12-week challenges. And man, we just started getting people from Orlando, which is right next to Tampa. We would have people come from other cities and stay in Airbnbs for 3 months and do a 90-day. I mean, people that had, the means to do that.
Sure.
And it just exploded.
So it sounds like the bread and butter initially is you're tapping into the nutritional side, which is usually, that's the biggest unlock for most people, right? And then you're packaging that with this community CrossFit type atmosphere, but more around HIIT.
Yeah. So,
by the way, I hate CrossFit.
Good.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's never enough equipping on how to do the lifts properly, which then just increases the odds of somebody getting injured.
If you talk to any doctor, that orthopedic doctor, they'll tell you that their biggest referral service is CrossFit gyms.
That doesn't shock me at all.
It's and there's some people that have done great things, and I don't want to throw the CrossFit community under the bus, but I will say that they are known for bringing general population and doing Olympic lifts on day 2.
Advanced level. Advanced level. I can't even. What's the one where you pop into here?
Yeah.
I can't get this movement, and I've been lifting in high school, for a long time.
Yeah, man. I mean, you see some pretty crazy things. I mean, the videos are out there of people just doing crazy.
I hate watching the videos.
Yeah, no, me too. For me, it's infuriating, right? Because I want to see people get strong, and you see them going. You're just like, oh man, it's just a matter of time before they break down.
Sure.
So we actually went against. We were throwing stones at CrossFit. from a marketing standpoint.
Smart.
Right. It was an angle. CrossFit was so popular, and we're like, this is why this is safe. This is why this is faster.
Yeah.
So we combined a bunch of hybrids into what we were doing, where for a little bit there, when I was playing soccer, I was a midfielder, and I stopped growing when I was 7. So I've always been short. And I wanted.
This man said 7. I'm like, bro, my son is 8. Is this how it plays out for certain people?
I'm 5'8". I stopped growing at 7, and so I was a little self-conscious, and after soccer I wanted to put some meat on my bones, so I started competing. So I went into the world of bodybuilding, did the whole thing, looked orange for a while, and then I picked up a bunch of knowledge there.
Okay.
And but I was coming back to the gym and trying to tell my general population clients, like, oh yeah, you got to do cardio in the morning, then you got to lift at night, and you got to eat 5 times a day. And the typical physician's looking at me, are you crazy? Like, I'm in the OR for 12 hours. I can't do that. So I was like, okay, this is not going to work, right? So then I basically said, what works for general population so that they can train like an athlete, they can eat like an athlete, but just be normal people, right? And so we took circuit training, which generally doesn't have segmented muscle groups. So to make it simple, basically on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we would segment muscle groups. So Mondays we would do push, chest, shoulders.
Push, pull, legs.
Right. No, actually chest, shoulders, tris, core on Mondays.
So upper body, upper, lower?
Yep. So
interesting.
all the push exercises on Monday, Wednesday, legs, core, and then Friday, back, bicep, core, pull.
That's kind of like push, pull, legs, though.
Right. But then, So basically, push on Mondays, legs on Wednesdays, Fridays, pull, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, full body workouts, like all the other group training facilities were doing.
Okay.
So, and we explained that to people that were coming through the door. We're like, listen, the reason you can't get fit at XYZ gym is because they do full body workouts all the time. And that's just not going to cut it. You have to segment muscle groups. You really have to fatigue certain muscle groups in order for that muscle to grow. So we had that angle going for us. We were seeing people transform radically, just get ripped. I mean, Sally, the 60-year-old Sally, just get ripped.
Come on.
Yeah. And then just rave, right? I mean, we spent no money and no marketing dollars. It was all word of mouth. And it was great, man. It was we ran that thing really, really well.
And again, how much of this are you infusing the empty your bucket plan as we know it now?
Oh man, that was a complete metamorphosis. Like everything has changed.
Okay. So it has changed and evolved.
Yeah, not the
okay, let me rephrase the question. How much of the nutritional side were you incorporating to help with the breakthrough? Because there's a lot of folks, you can get a tunnel gym, you can go and go to a regular gym. There's a spectrum of things people can do to get stronger. But in the sense of like what I experienced doing your program was the ability to rewire my brain around food, which then makes everything the unlock, right? So back then, when people are coming to Coach JT, how much of it is, man, the word on the street is this dude is helping people with the nutritional stuff, unlike anyone else on the market.
That's everything.
That was it. That was the draw.
So yes, the transformation, like people, this is what people were hearing. There's this guy in 6 weeks, he'll transform your body. Okay. Right. And at that point, it was a component of resistance training and nutrition.
Yep.
And so, we ran the gym, so we continue to run the programs, but always inside with the idea that like, man, if I could just put these people on pause and get their nutrition dialed in and the right kind of cardio, then we can decrease body fat percentages and get them to lose weight rapidly.
Absolutely.
And then bring them back to the gym, and they're going to see massive returns on investment.
Yep.
But of course, everyone was coming to the gym and like, I want to work out.
Yep.
So then we had some transitions in there because they were obviously on a deficit, and so we couldn't push them as hard.
Sure.
So we managed to work that for a little bit. We ran that pretty successfully, and things were growing. Unfortunately, Monday through Friday, here I was preaching fitness and nutrition, and on the weekends, I was living a very incongruent life. Right, I was a man of the world. I would say that from the age of, when I started playing soccer, 17, well, at the high level, 17 to 24, but prior to that, in the amateurs and stuff like that, I was well behaved. Not because I was a good guy. I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional home, and I had a lot of traumas that were just hidden because of soccer and because of the accountability that I had from coaches and teammates. I was on a bus or a plane every other weekend, so I couldn't party. I couldn't do any of those things. And I really didn't have an affection for those things because I just had never done it. But then when soccer went away, that was a whole different story. And, I grew up in a third generation mafia family, saw a lot of crazy things. And when soccer went away, those things just creeped up on me quickly. And not having any kind of foundation, I just went into the world. I started making money, and I did what I was told to do. I was brought up in a household that said, if you make enough money, you'll be content. So I went chasing that hard, and I got it, and I was empty.
When you say, not to go too far back, third generation mafia family, you're Colombian.
Yeah.
You know where my brain goes.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any overlap with Pablo Escobar and the cocaine cowboys and all that stuff from the 70s and 80s?
Yeah. So we actually came to the United States in 1978 as a byproduct of a family member of us called Rafico. And he's part of Cocaine Cowboys.
Whoa.
So he's in the movie. Griselda Blanco, that was her right-hand person.
Really?
So that's why we came here in 78.
Okay.
And
to be a part of this operation, your family was a part of this stuff with Pablo and all that?
So my dad was a big guy in those times, in the 60s and 70s. Back then, cocaine wasn't a thing. It was marijuana. So he basically brought the first contraband here of marijuana in the I think it was like in the 60s. So that was my dad. So my mom actually left Colombia running away from him because he was a madman, right? And so he was aggressive, he was abusive. So my mom ends up running away with two kids. My sister, who was six or seven at the time, I was one. We came here because Rafico basically, helped my mom escape.
Whoa.
And so we ended up in West Palm Beach, and from there we moved to New York. I grew up in New York City.
Okay. Was your dad a part of your life as a child?
He was not. He was not. I came to meet him when I was 14.
Okay.
Interesting character.
I bet.
Yeah.
So this is your lineage. You're coming from.
Yeah.
There's Narcos. There's a whole Netflix series about this stuff, and your family is connected with this.
Yeah.
With this thing. So then it would make sense for you to go the athletic route, the kind of straight edge. Let me just have structure for a while, and then you get into your 20s.
Yeah.
And you just kind of lose it.
Yeah. There's a lot of talented people in Colombia. People in Colombia are very highly educated. Most people are high, even people that come from poor backgrounds. But unfortunately, now it's different because of the internet. There's a lot more, possibilities. But back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you were either a soccer player, or you were part of one of the crews, or you were just a professional, but you really weren't making it, right? And so I grew up in New York City. I kind of removed myself. I grew up with so much crazy stuff.
What part of New York?
So we lived initially in Jamaica, Queens.
Okay.
We lived in Brooklyn. We lived in Jersey.
You moved around.
We had to move around.
Yeah.
So we would move every year. We would move at least 3 times.
Okay.
Right, and it was because homes were constantly getting raided.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty crazy childhood, and I wanted nothing to do with that stuff.
Yeah.
I did my first drug deal when I was 7 years old.
In New York or
in New York City?
Wow.
Yeah. So I handed over a bag with. Is this okay? Can I be explicit with it? Okay. So I handed over a bag with 10 kilos of coke. Right. Me at 7.
We're moving coke.
Yeah.
Kilos of coke.
So let me explain how that happened. So when you grow up in these families and you're a male, right, you're expected to learn the trade, right? You hear the conversations. Imagine a 7-year-old being brought into these conversations. And all the males around me are either street soldiers or bosses. So it's a hard environment to grow up in. And what they do is they start giving you little things to do so you can get confidence. So I'll never forget. It was one of the street soldiers that used to take care of my mom. His nickname was Chino. He looked Chinese, so they called him Chino. Colombian guy. We were in a car and we were doing a drop off. I was just there, and Chino looked at me and he said, "You're ready? Are you ready to pop your cherry?" And I just looked at him and he's like, so he showed me a wad of money. He said, "Take this bag and run over across the street. See that car right there? Hand it over." And I was just by myself, and he's like, "Yeah, by yourself." So I grabbed the bag and I ran over, handed it. The other adults in the car were like, "What is going on here?" Right? They took the bag. I ran back into the car, and these guys cheered like I had just graduated college.
Wow.
and they handed me all this money, and that's intoxicating, right?
Yeah.
That just messes you up.
How do you feel about it now, looking back in hindsight? Like, my son is 8.
Yeah.
And you're describing, I mean, even to say to a 7-year-old, like, pop your cherry, like, that's a very explicit sexual metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, like, when you think about it now, you have kids, I have kids. Like, how do you process it now?
Man, that's a great question. That's been a tough transition for me to be able to, through, as a man of faith today, be able to have grace over my mom because she did it out of ignorance. But it's been tough. It's been tough because what you say, I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. I mean, I keep my daughters in a bubble, and I wouldn't even think of ever putting, exposing my kids like that in any way, shape, or form. But that was the mindset. That's what they were doing at the time. She made a lot of mistakes, and looking back, I mean, I feel like, I always go back to that scripture: all things work together for those that love the Lord and are called according to His purposes, right? And
Romans 8:28.
Yeah, so the Lord has used that in my life big time. I can now speak to guys like that with know exactly what they've been through.
Yeah.
So God has used it, but all of those traumas were kind of in the back burner, and then soccer went away. I started.
Now you don't have no structure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I started to make a little bit of money, and I had the 2 European cars I wanted parked outside. I was living in one of the most expensive zip codes in America, right on Bayshore Boulevard. At 27, I owned, a beautiful condo. I had rental properties. The gyms were growing. Things were going well. But the weekends, I would just destroy my body. And it was back then, it was vodka, Red Bull, and Adderall.
Yeah. I hear that there's a lot of folks addicted to Adderall. That's like is it because it's a type of methamphetamine, right?
That's the new cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I used to work a lot of hours, and in order to party like a rock star, those were kind of the speedballs, and, I'd pop five of those a night.
Sheesh.
And drink vodka all night long and never get drunk. So that was kind of the appeal, was like, I can hang out and, and do all these things and not get drunk.
Yeah.
And then,
because the Adderall was offsetting the downer.
Yeah. So the Adderall won't allow you to get drunk.
Yeah.
So you can still drink and have a buzz the entire night.
Right.
And have very articulate conversations and, not get sloppy. And that was appealing, right? Because I never wanted to be the sloppy guy. I always had people around me that knew me and stuff. And with Adderall, I guess the appeal for those guys is that they don't have to go to the bathroom 10 times like with these other drugs, right? And so I did that for a little while, woke up one morning and my heart was skipping a beat. And, like any other guy, I thought, I'm just being a guy, I'm being a hypochondriac, I'll be fine.
Like you feel your heart beating weird.
Yeah, it was weird because I would hear plop, 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 and then a pause. And in that pause, I would feel like blood rushing through my head.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah. So it was scary, but I just put it aside, went to work that morning, felt horrible all morning long. I was just sick. And one of my physician clients came in and I said, "Hey man, can you take my pulse?" So he took my pulse and he said, "JT, something's not right." He said, "You got to get checked out." So I went into a walk-in clinic there in Tampa, right on Howard Avenue, walked in, they, plugged me into all these machines. The nurse practitioner runs in with the EKG and says, "You have to run to the hospital."
Jeez.
And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "We can't take care of you here. You got to run to the hospital." So I went to Tampa General, which was, a couple blocks away from there, got hooked up to all these machines. And I remember little Asian doctor came in. He walks in and he looks at me. He says, "Have you been doing drugs?" And I looked at him.
Like, no, just Adderall.
Yeah. No. I looked at him and I said, "Doc, it's Wednesday." As if this were a weekend thing for me, right? And he's like, "Man, you can't do this anymore." He's like, "You're going to have a stroke." He says, "You have an electrical problem in your heart. You have aflutter and AFib." He says, "You can never drink again."
Ooh.
Yeah. So to be honest with you, I was actually happy that had happened because I was like, this is an eye opener. I'm never going to do this again. This is exactly what I needed to happen. Stayed at the hospital for a couple of days, went home. They gave me they gave me 3 alternatives: to go on medication, to get a catheter ablation, or to take an aspirin. So I'll take the aspirin. I took the aspirin, went home, was still getting off and on palpitations all the time, feeling horrible. Anyone that's experienced that just makes you feel horrible, right? And it's scary because your heart's just doing crazy things. So did that for 2 weeks, behaved for 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, I was in someone's limo just getting absolutely plastered. Knowing that, you know, what that could have, you know, turned out, you know, me dying right there on the spot. But I was trying to numb my pain, right? I was trying to numb my pain from all like the void I had in my life. It was very confusing because I had achieved all these things and I was told that if I achieved those things that I would be happy, but yet I was empty, super empty. So I woke up on a Sunday morning, mentally, physically, and spiritually hungover. And I took out a notepad and I started to write a note to my sister. And in that note, I was telling her I was going to check out, right? And I started to write all my passwords. And as I'm writing, I'm crying and I'm like, man, this is crazy that I'm going to end my life. But the way I was rationalizing taking myself out was, man, the soccer thing didn't work out. You know, I've built this quote unquote mini empire. This is falling apart, right? My idol, my body, right, is no longer holding up, right? The girl that I had been dating for 5 years, Jewish girl who was, you know, from a very rich family in Tampa, and she walked away, and 3 weeks later she was out with another guy. My mom and my sister came to live in my little manicured condo, and you know, it was rough because I was running away from them. I had been running away from them all my life. Now they were in my space. And then all these things just came, and man, it was devastating. So I decided that I was going to take myself out. I'm writing this letter, but I remember this guy that I used to bump into in the elevator. Interestingly enough, I had bumped into him three or four times on Saturdays. I was on my way to getting faded into the night. He was coming back from church with a Bible under his arm. And it was always, you know, I was always shocked by that because he was a good-looking dude. He had a beautiful wife. He looked genuinely happy, right? I'm like, what does this dude have that I don't have, you know? And so I would always mess with him. A super nice guy. I'm like, man, we should go out and party sometime. And he's like, no, I left that life behind a long time ago. He said, you should come to church with me sometime. And I was like, you know, the typical unbeliever response. The walls will cave in. You know, I can't go there. But I called him and I said, look, man, I don't know what you can do for me, but I don't have another 2 days in me. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to kill myself. And he said, whoa, don't do anything silly. He came down. He used to live upstairs from my condo. Came, sat across from me and said, he brought his Bible. He opens his Bible and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And he starts reading. He just starts reading out of the New Testament, and he's basically sharing the gospel with me. And I looked at him and I said, you're going to have to give me something else because I don't believe in God. And this dude looked at me straight in the eye as if he were talking to me about gravity, like with that certainty, you know? And he said, God is all I have for you. So I looked at him and I said, what does that mean? And he said, what are you doing tonight? I said, well, I was going to kill myself, but if you have better plans, we'll go do that. And so, you know, reluctantly, I got in his car and we went up to this church, big mega church there in Tampa. Actually, it's considered one of the fastest growing churches in America. They have campuses everywhere. Walked into the church and saw two things I love: Starbucks and pretty women. I'm like, yes. I'm like, this is Jesus. All right. So I don't even have to buy drinks here, you know? And so I walked in and went into the sanctuary, and that night, that pastor did a survey on the book of Job. And it hit me like a lightning bolt, right? To the point where I looked at my buddy and I was like, did you tell this guy what I have going on? Right? And he's like, no, dude, there's 800 people in this place. Yeah. He's like, this is how God speaks to us. Yeah. And I had everything that they were saying about Job except being a righteous man. And I was not serving God for sure. So after the service, I looked at my buddy and I said, okay, let's go. He said, no, let's go to the prayer team. Oof. And I said, prayer team. Now, I grew up in a family where men don't cry. Men don't ask for favors, especially to other men. So I was like, all right. So we go up to this young guy, looks super, super, super innocent. And I'm already judging him. I'm sizing him up. I'm looking at him and I'm going, what is this dude going to do for me? Right. So he looks at me and he says, well, what do we have going on? What are we praying for? And I just unleashed. So, man, I've been up for 2 days. I've been doing drugs, alcohol, hanging out with strippers. I don't believe in God. I have absolutely no idea why I'm here. And I remember he just looked at me like, wow. He said, close your eyes. He started praying. To be honest with you, I have no idea what that man said. I just checked out because I was so embarrassed, and I didn't want anyone to see me. And so I'm thinking about that, right? But at a particular instance, and you know, I'm very reformed in my theology, but in my day to day, you know, I would say I'm pretty charismatic in my way. I felt, and then back then I didn't know where I was or what I was doing, but I felt like I got hit by lightning. And this just rain of emotions. I just started crying like a baby, and I had no idea why I was crying. So I walk out of there, and as I'm walking out of there, this older pastor who passed away, he looks at me and he says these words. He says, "Why are you crying, son?" And I don't know why, because I never felt like I missed my dad, but for whatever reason, I felt like that fatherly concern. And I just started bawling even more. He said, I want to gift you this. And he gave me his Bible. And I said, where do I even start here? And he said, in the Gospel of John. So I said, where is that? So, you know, he opened it for me. I put my finger in the page. I walked out. My buddy who invited me to church, so he stayed behind, and he says that pastor looked at him and he saw me walk away. And he said, that dude's going to get it. He's going to get it. I found out about this years later. And I walked out of that church, and progressively my vices, my affections for the world started to fall away. I remember waking up that very next morning and looking at myself in the mirror. And there was something really interesting that would always happen when I would look at myself in the mirror. I would feel shame. And that morning I felt different. You know, I felt very different. I felt peace. I felt like a 2,000 pound gorilla had come off my shoulders. And then I went into the gym. I looked at my business partner and I said, I'm out. So
just like that.
Yeah. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm done. And he said, man, we've taken so long to build this, and everything is going so great now. I said, I don't know what happened to me last night, but I'm done. I need to go figure it out. So there was a trainer coming in from California who didn't have a book of clients. I sold him all my equipment, all my book of clients for $25K and walked away.
Jeez.
To give you some context, like one of my pieces of equipment was $25K.
Yeah.
So I walked away, locked myself in my condo, didn't know, for the very first time, I would read the New Testament and understand. Like for the very first. I had tried before, and I've gotten very frustrated and threw my Bible across the room because I'm like, how is this thing powerful? I don't even understand. Like, what are they talking about? Yeah. But, you know, God was just really working in me and allowing me to understand these things. And I started to feel this peace that was, it was addictive, right? And I just went on fire. So I started to pray and fast and ask God to really recycle a lot of my talents and my blessings, because I wanted to serve him. And my prayer was like, I don't care if you put me in a parking lot, but I want to serve you. Yeah. So I did that for 2 years. Those were the two most incredible years of my life, because I volunteered to give up my income, which was my idol, my big idol. I sold the gym, which was my second idol. And I walked away from all my relationships. I deleted 300 numbers out of my phone, people that just weren't serving my new purpose. I stopped going to the clubs, obviously. And so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I would go to church to keep myself away from trouble, because I knew I needed to do something on the weekends. And man, God just started to just pour this knowledge into me. And as a byproduct of that, my life just started to transform slowly but surely. I started to pray for a wife because I gave up completely dating, right? I gave up dating. I gave up, going out, doing any of those things. I was living on my savings. I was no longer chasing money. And I felt like God did that for 2 years to break my dependency on the things of the world and have all my dependency on him. So we did that for 2 years. I met my wife, met her at a conference. I had been praying hard for a wife. my buddy who lives out here, pointed her out to me. And we met, dated for 3 months, got married on month 4. Wow. It's been 11 years. We have 2 little ones.
Congrats, man. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Were you, when you were taking this break, from everything. What were you doing in terms of sustaining yourself?
So I had savings.
Okay.
I had
Gosh, you had that much in savings?
Yeah. I was crushing it. I mean, at one point I had a safe in my house, and there was plenty of money in there.
Some Colombian drug dealing boots. This man got
there was plenty of money in there. I remember my Jewish girlfriend one time helped me count my stash.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Why don't you take your money to a bank?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I don't trust banks." So yeah, man. And so met my wife, got married, and then my wife was making more money than me at the time, which, man, bless her heart. She took a leap of faith. Yeah. But she'll tell you she didn't believe anything I was saying. She wasn't a believer at the time, but she was very receptive to everything I was saying. And and she said to me, that she just knew that God was doing something in me, and she wanted to be part of that.
Wow.
So
what years? How old are you when you meet your wife?
So I am 30. So I get saved at 30, and then I meet her right around 31 and a half.
Okay. So this is pretty soon.
Yeah.
In the process.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I discipled my wife. Yeah. She came to Christ. She got baptized, and everything happened so quick, man. Yeah. So quick. I mean, we dated for 3 months, got married on month 4.
Yep.
She'll tell you that for the first 2 years, she doubted her salvation. So, all the time she would leave church and she would cry. Yeah. She's like, "Why? I just don't feel what you feel."
Yeah.
And, and the Lord has worked in her, and today she's a faithful woman of God, and
it's awesome.
It's just incredible faith, man. So, yeah. And so then I started praying because I wanted to be a provider. I wasn't working. And slowly but surely, the Lord started to open some doors again in the fitness industry, and not audibly, but the Lord in prayer basically impressed upon my heart that I was to go back into that industry, and that I was to be a light in the midst of darkness. So we went right into Soho, like that's like the devil's den, all the clubs, all the bars, and we started Fit Method 413 based on Philippians 4:13.
Let's go.
And the thing that I wanted to, I had no idea how we were going to do anything for Christ in that space.
Yeah.
No idea. But I started to pray. I said, "I don't know, but Lord, I need you to bring some people around me that do know what they're doing."
Yep.
So, man, I met this dude who was, it happened this way. Short story. We're coming back from the movies. My wife and I, one night, she and I had been praying about this coach that we wanted to bring on board. This guy hits me up on an email, long email. He says, "I pass by your storefront every single day, and God told me to go in there." So I just got my certification. So I meet him up at Starbucks, and this is a modern day, John the Baptist, just on fire evangelist. He was a missionary. He had done a bunch of things, charismatic, just very charismatic in the sense of like outgoing and that sort of thing. And he came on board, and man, we for 7 years we ran that place, and our running joke was that we would lead more people to the Lord doing squats and lunges than most churches any Sunday. Right? It was a radical move of God.
Yeah.
People knew what we stood for. We held Bible studies. We had discipleship groups in there. This was a gym. We had pastors coming out to speak, and it was just amazing, to the point where we used to say, well, we have these people in close quarters. We might as well, give them something of true value. We're going to give them the workout, and then we're going to give them something of true value.
Yeah.
So we used to have the warm-up session, the group training session, and then the stretch. And in the stretch, we would give them a little piece of devotional, right? And it was interesting because it always felt tense, because people would get really quiet and awkward, right? But for a time, we stopped doing it, and an overwhelming amount of people would reach out and be like, "How come you guys aren't doing the devotional anymore?" Some of these people weren't even believers.
Yeah.
So we knew some things were happening there. We continued to grow that brand. Things went really well, and then the pandemic came around, and 80% of our members said, "We want to stay on board and pay our fees because we don't want to see you go under." Yeah. So from a financial standpoint, we were fine.
Wow.
So it was a paid 2-month vacation, but I'm the guy that wakes up at 3:10 in the morning, and I go till 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So I was sitting at home twiddling my fingers. I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And so I knew we had a solid offer from a nutrition standpoint, because the transformations. So the hook was come train with us, but the game changer was the nutrition.
Got it.
So we said, okay, I'm going to put this out there.
Yeah.
And I had worked with a pretty big gym mastermind that taught me a lot of things. And I knew how to sell online. I hadn't wanted to go out there and do it because I was used to the one-on-one thing, right?
Sure.
The face-to-face. So I said, let's see what happens. So I launched my first 6-week challenge online, and it just like blew up.
Wow.
In a matter of 6 months, our online business made more money than our gyms had ever made in an entire year.
Wow.
Just in 6 months.
Come on.
With less overhead, no trainers,
Yeah.
and better results.
Yeah.
Right? We were getting massive results for people.
Yep.
Because we learned that when the fitness component is involved, there's a delay in results. When we tackle nutrition and cardio, people lose the weight, get a lot of momentum, create a strong foundation, and then thrive from there on out. Because the training part is the easy part. Everyone wants to train, right? So we did that, and it's been almost 3 years since we went online. We never looked back. We sold all the gyms about 2.5 years ago.
Do you miss any of the community component? I mean, because that's what you're describing. Let me adjust your mic.
Yep.
What you're describing.
There you go. You got it.
What you're describing sounds like a fun business. Like it sounds super dope to have like this really dope community of people and all this stuff. Do you ever miss that in-person side?
Yeah. So I tell my wife all the time, I miss being around people. I miss the impact that I was having over a lot of people.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of marriages restore. We saw, guys who were caught up on drugs, alcohol, that were coming to the gym as an outlet, trying to do better.
Yeah.
But they encountered, a guy like me or one of our other coaches where we're like, hey man, let's go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
And in those talks, we would have these deep conversations.
Yeah.
There's a couple of videos of me, baptizing people in the ocean.
Yeah.
Members.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then discipling them for a whole year.
Yep.
And then plugging them into a local church.
Yeah.
And that was our gig.
Yeah.
We basically knew all the local churches, and we were just plugging people in.
Yeah.
Just seeing families start going to church, and man, it was so cool. I miss that part big time.
I bet. But on this level, what you're doing now, you're able to scale faster and reach more people, basically on a national level, where it's not just has to be in proximity.
Yeah, and we continue to stay true to sharing the gospel.
Yeah,
we do that in a very we're not apologetic about our faith, but we're respectful.
Sure,
right? Because we have people of all walks of faith that come on to our program.
Yep.
And the rule is, the rule of engagement is, they have to ask.
I see what you're saying.
So,
because you're there to provide a service.
Correct.
For them. Yeah.
Correct. So I'm going to give you what you came for, but if you ask, that's a whole different story.
It's good.
You open that door, I'm going to walk right through it.
That's good.
And so, you get close to people. People have adversity, friction in their lives, and they get close to you. They trust you.
Yep.
So, hey, I'm thinking about getting divorced.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Let's chat.
Yeah.
And so it's been amazing.
It's good. That's good. Okay. Well, I want to get into the before and after photos, which people have not seen. I want to get into some of the specifics of the plan. But before we get that, can you just, I feel like there's two types of people that I come across. One type of person is someone that has some degree of trauma from their childhood that uses food as a cope. They've never really dealt with their issues. They've never gone to therapy, right? And it is an addiction. It is a dopamine source, right? And there's probably other addictions there, And then there's another type of person that just likes starchy, savory foods that humans probably didn't get a ton of access to for a while. And so it's not necessarily super deep, but the impact can be just as dangerous to their health if you don't know what you're putting inside of your mouth, right? What do you think when it comes to this and the people you deal with? Would you say it's more of the latter? They're just ignorant. They don't know what they don't know. It's not necessarily rooted to some sort of trauma that they never dealt with. Or do you say, man, when I'm dealing with people, they open up and they start really sharing all these personal things, and you find out food is actually an addiction attached to something deeper?
Okay. So I know a lot of people are going to go against what I'm about to say, but I truly believe this on experience, right? Okay. Knowing what I know today, I believe everyone is addicted to some extent to food.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because food is a pleasurable thing.
Sure.
There's a lot of emotional anchors around food. You eat with family, friends, people you love, and that creates emotional anchors. And emotional anchors, anytime there's a big emotion and something happens, you anchor it into your nervous system. So what happens is when people actually have friction in their lives, the innocent drug is food. Because they're
innocent drug.
The innocent
That's
drug.
good.
Right? Because the way they justify it, this is when people bring out their apologetics, is like, well, I gotta live. Right? Well, I eat pretty clean. Everyone tells you they eat clean.
Yeah.
Everyone.
By the way, that word "eat clean" is hilarious. Like, well, I eat pretty clean. What do you eat, man?
Yeah.
Oh, burgers and
Yeah.
bread and sugar.
Exactly. But I believe that most of us, to some extent, have a level of trauma.
Yeah.
Right. That is and then we utilize different outlets, crutches, or idols in our lives to alleviate that. So, the definition of an addiction basically is a compulsive behavior that scratches an itch. That is a practical way to put it.
That's good.
So when people have stress, when people have happy, bored, sad, all these emotions cause you to eat, to want to eat. Now, what happens is if you knew what to eat and you scratch that itch with good things, it's not a bad thing. It's kind of like the alcohol, like the person that drinks alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a beer, it's not going to make you drunk. But if you're pounding one after another,
Sure.
you're going to get drunk. And that's the problem. Most people don't understand nutrition because of all the craziness that's out there.
Yeah.
Right? You have macro counting, calorie counting, point counting, keto, Atkins, South Beach, West Beach, North Beach, right, as Pastor E says. But man, there's a lot of confusion out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
The brain doesn't like complexity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You give someone something complex and they'll handle it for a little while, but then they'll toss it.
Yeah.
So simplicity is the name of the game.
Have you heard of I just discovered this and it's so fascinating. Have you heard of the beta region paradox?
Beta region paradox.
Let me make sure I'm saying that correctly. The beta region paradox. I just did a video on it.
Okay.
It's this paradox where if someone has to go 1 mile somewhere, they'll walk, right? And I'm not talking, so the objective is to get as quickly to a destination as possible. So if they got to go 1 mile, they'll walk. If they got to go 2 miles, they'll drive or cycle. So paradoxically, the longer distance, they get there in less time. And so the beta region paradox is basically comfortable complacency, where if it's not that bad, people won't take action.
Right.
But if it's really bad, then they're more inclined to take action. And so you'll stay at a terrible job. You'll stay at 20, 30 pounds overweight, which is normal now. You'll stay in around friends that are potentially harmful to you. You'll stay because it's not that bad. But then the person that actually has it real bad is almost at an advantage to take action in their life. The person that's over 30 pounds, maybe 50, 60 pounds overweight is more likely to take action versus the person that's just like the 20 or the 30, you know what I mean? And so it's this very interesting where the more work required will often it's like someone that gets injured, the more severe the injury, the more aggressive they'll be on their recovery and their rehab.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. So we're talking about those pain and pleasure buttons.
Yeah.
Which are, I mean, that is the driving force of life. You're either going to do things to avoid pain or gain pleasure, right? And so the more pain in your life, the more desirable to take action, right? And alleviate that situation.
Yes.
So this is why the people that come into our program and do the best are people that are in a lot of pain. These are the people that got the bad doctor's reports. They're all of a sudden now their doctor said, hey, you either change your lifestyle or you're going to, or you're going to go on, you're going to become insulin dependent. Or the person that, has high blood pressure and hypertension and these people, and they just found out about it. Now, we know that the statistics are clear that people that have had heart surgery or, any kind of heart situation, open heart surgery, 90% of them never change their lifestyle. Initially they do. But then once they're okay, they go back to their normal habits.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So the idea really is that most of these people are looking for quick fixes that fix the problem in the moment, but that are not sustainable. So our job inside of the Empty Your Bucket plan has been to kick complexity out, to allow your discipline muscle to rest. This is where we practice the 80-20. And then to throw away counting macros, calories, and points, because yes, those things are efficient in the short term, but they're just not sustainable in the long term. We know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Even level 3 athletes will not count macros forever.
Yeah.
They'll do it for a season.
Sure.
No one likes that.
Yeah. Well, I think it also gets to the willpower aspect.
Yeah.
Because willpower depletes, right? And discipline is really the byproduct of a system, right? Like
That's
long-term system is going to be based, long-term discipline is going to be based around a system that you can work indefinitely versus like, I got to white knuckle it and not eat the foods that I want to eat. You could do that for a small window of time,
Yeah.
but it's not going to sustain yourself. And again, with this plan, that's what helped me is that because I've done it before, right? I showed you my initial before and after photos, but this time around it was like, oh, like the cravings are gone.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to white knuckle it.
Yeah. So James Clear from Atomic Habits, who's been very, very influential in our work, says that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's one of my favorite sayings that he has.
Yeah.
And it's true. When you look from afar and you see a disciplined person, what you're seeing is a person, number one, who doesn't spend a lot of time around temptation. That's why they're disciplined.
Yep.
Meaning that discipline is not a predisposition. It's actually learned.
Yep.
It's like having rhythm.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I didn't know how to dance. I learned how to dance.
Yeah.
You can learn that.
Yeah.
So everyone can learn to be disciplined.
Yeah,
and the
that's
way
good.
you become disciplined is by having systems in your life.
Yep.
So forget about the goal. The goal is clarity, but it's not power. Power is the ability to take action.
Yeah.
The way you take action is through strategy, right? Having a system in place.
Yes.
So when you have a system, now you don't have to, the brain loves it because you don't have to replicate, you don't have to think hard. You don't have to deplete all this energy having to think, how do I do this or how do I do that? You just know what to do because you have a system in place. And then you follow that system.
Yep.
And then you follow it long enough until it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
So if you say no to the chips long enough, there will come a point where you just don't want the chips anymore.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Okay. So should we show the before and after or should we get into the system? What do you guys think? Chat. We're going to do questions and answer at the end. There's a handful of people from our online community in the chat. We'll do questions and answer. If you have a question now, just drop all capital question and I'll pull them up on the screen for Coach JT in a second. What do you think? Should we show the before and after?
I think we should definitely show it.
All right. So gosh, man, this is a humiliating before and after.
No,
okay. So I'm going to show them the before. Okay. Now this photo was taken on, this is like right before Christmas. And I remember not feeling great. And I also remember thinking to myself, if I can get through Christmas, right? And the holidays and my birthday and do this program and not cheat, then I'll be able to sustain it indefinitely. And I also remember doing it made me so angry that I couldn't eat the foods I wanted that I said, next Christmas, I'm gonna be so shredded that I could eat exactly what I want.
That guy right there didn't have a system. Right? that guy did not have a system.
So this is me. I'm 5'10" and a half, and this is me at 205 pounds ish. I would fluctuate between 195 and 200. All right. And I've strength trained for a very long time. So I have some muscle definition in my chest. I'm not like a scrawny guy.
Sure.
And again, I've done this before, not like this though. Okay. So now let me pull up. Go ahead. Did you want to add anything? You roast this photo? Go for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the perfect dad bod right there. So
Look at my face. Look at the defeat in my face, man.
the guy's like, give me a donut.
I just feel defeated. And the crazy part is I kept starting and stopping. I would do the calorie counting thing. I had the app. We get meal preps delivered to us. It just the cravings of the foods that I wasn't supposed to eat were so bad that like it was like my brain would just get hijacked and I would make terrible decisions with food.
Yeah. So this is a big one, right? So one of the things that has differentiated us and set us apart from a lot of the programs out there, I'm not saying we're the only ones, is the fact that we look at weight loss. We look at people being overweight as a dependency, not a character flaw. It's just simply a dependency. Dependency on what? High insulinogenic foods that yield a lot of insulin, right? Your typical starchy carbohydrate is very addicting because anything that secretes dopamine makes you addicted. So think about it. When you eat starches, you get this burst of insulin that takes your insulin from 0 to 10 in no time. So if you're having a bad day, you're stressed at work, and you eat something, momentarily, you feel good. And that's what your brain is looking for. It's looking for that hit, that constant hit. So the reason most people yo-yo diet is because they've never overcome their addiction. I recently put something out saying the reason in one of my videos, I put out something. I said the reason fruit is dangerous, and some big fitness guy said that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And the reason he says that is because he's only thinking numbers on the scale.
Yeah.
He's not thinking cognitively what's happening to people when they eat these things.
Right.
So you can eat fruit all you want and lose weight.
Yeah.
Right. That's not the problem. You can eat Kit Kat every day as long as you count your macros. We've talked about this, right?
Yeah.
But the difference is really putting yourself, and we have the same process that any addiction therapist would have with any kind of crutch, idol, whatever you want to call it. And that is to put people through abstinence. You cannot get away from a dependency without going into a season of abstinence.
Yep.
Abstinence from what? We want to make sure that we're resetting your taste buds, number one.
Yep.
Number two, we want to make sure that we reset your brain's reward pathways.
Yes.
So that you have an overdose of dopamine that is provided by your phone, by social media, by the things you eat, by your, all the things, how you get dopamine hits. Yeah. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to take it from let's say scale 0, none, 10, all the way.
Yep.
We're looking to take your dopamine set point from an 8 or 9 when it comes to food and bring it down at least to a 2 or 3. Because then when you can rationally think through these things, you can make better decisions.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to willpower your way all the way through. That's why this is so sustainable.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, you guys ready for the after photos? All right. Okay, here's the deal. Linda, listen to me. I don't want any freaking comments about causing any of you 80% of our male audience to stumble. Okay? You are being warned right now. Okay? By the way, the whole causing people to stumble, JT, it's seldom is it women. It's other dudes talking about some other woman somewhere that's a hypothetical that's going to cause somebody to stumble. This is for inspirational purposes only. You have been warned. Okay? We're going to show you an after photo. Okay? This is for inspirational purposes only. If I get one of these freaking comments, you're going to get blocked. Okay? All right, here's the after photo. We'll show you guys a couple after photos. And these were taken Wednesday. This isn't, I haven't been sitting on these for a while. This is taken Wednesday. All right, here we go. Bang. That's the after photo.
Wow. Look at the difference in the face. Guys, serious.
So what's awesome about this, and you told me this was going to happen, because we would eat a lot of protein. You had me eating 8 ounces of protein 3 times a day, which is a lot of freaking protein. It's an obnoxious amount of protein. Yeah. I was able to maintain the muscle from this photo. I actually didn't lose much size on my arms or my chest. So the muscle was maintained. The fat was gone. And this is me now at about 171, 172. I fluctuate now between 170, 174. And so this is Wednesday. We just took these. I'll show you guys another photo. Okay. And this is not, I've done shoots before. I didn't take a diuretic. I didn't do nothing crazy in these photos. This is just, we showed up, Zach brought a light to the gym. I got a pump going, and boom, this is 30 pounds lighter. And I feel like I look bigger, especially in this right photo. Yes. I feel like I look bigger in this photo. So this whole notion that you can't lose fat and gain muscle, I may have not gained strength. I'm probably not getting down and benching, repping, 155 on an incline bench. I'm probably not doing that right now. But the muscle aspect, in terms of just pure volume of muscle, that I feel like I was able to maintain most of my muscle. Yeah.
So the big the thing that scares people when they come on is, and we tell them, hey, can you please put aside for 6 to 8 weeks the resistance training part? Yeah. Is that, man, am I going to lose muscle?
Sure.
Right. Literally that is 9 out of 10 times the thing people ask me. I think you asked me that. And what's interesting is that we know for a fact that even in studies with people that do extended fasts, right, there's a guy somewhere that I heard the other day that will fast 100 days out of the year. He stopped recently because he realizes that that's not the healthiest thing to do. Interestingly enough, they found out that the best time time to fast is 40 days. I wonder who came up with that.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but then they also, in these studies, they realize that people that have done extensive fast. Now, we're not fasting here. We're bringing in proper nutrition.
Yep.
But the people that are fasting are not losing any muscle when they're well hydrated, right? What they lose is sort of that pump, right? That the nitrogen retention or whatever. But once they start lifting again, right, they look pretty massive. And the reason for that is because when you lose body fat percentages, when you get rid of water retention, you actually see your muscle bellies more than ever before, right? So you look bigger.
Yep.
This is the whole illusion of a bodybuilder.
Yep.
You see bodybuilders on off season and they're massive. I mean, they're, these 6'1" guys, 230 pounds, and they shred down to 185 and they look massive on stage. You're like, how do you take someone who's 230 pounds on off season who looks massive and then make them look bigger at 185?
Yep.
How does that happen?
Yep.
It's an illusion.
Yep. That's good. Okay, so let's go through the program. I'll walk you guys through it. And then you again, no secrets here, right?
Secrets.
And if you guys want to bring on Coach JT, we'll have a link for that. This is all in your book.
Yeah.
But I brought you on as a coach, and you were able to walk me through this. It was a bit customized, but I'll walk you through why I like this program, because I've done paleo / Whole30 before, and what I gathered, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that this program was the best of all the programs.
That's right.
So I was basically doing paleo in that we weren't doing grains, we weren't doing sugar, we weren't doing bread, we weren't, right? It was no starchy stuff. Excuse me, but then it was keto because I was in a slight ketosis, yet I wasn't doing dairy and bacon.
Okay.
And I was intermittent fasting. So it's like all three of basically the meals at the same time. And so the first phase was the hardest.
Right.
But I enjoyed it because I just learned to love what I was told to eat. 8 ounces of chicken 3 times a day with a protein shake. And then the only carbs I was getting was from non-glycemic starchy carbs. Broccoli, cauliflower is where I was getting my carbs from.
Fibrous carbs.
Leafy greens. And then I would use a Primal Kitchen salad dressing, which was kind of my healthy fats. Down the road, we incorporated avocado. And we weren't doing dairy. We weren't doing grains. It's a lot of stuff we weren't doing in phase 1. And then a gallon of water a day. And then my last meal would be at 7. First meal wouldn't be till 10 a.m. That was the plan you had me on. With a protein shake of I forgot the protein you had me get. I didn't do a lot of like the sugar-free condiments and all that other stuff, because that stuff was just gross, or the
Mrs. Nash?
Sodium-free salt.
Yeah, the salt.
And, like that stuff just didn't work. I honestly, what the hardest part was? I missed salt. I missed my Himalayan salt. That was the hardest part.
Right.
The cravings of the starchy foods and the sugar. I had maybe 3 days of like, oh my gosh, I feel like death.
Yeah.
And then once all that detoxed out of me, I was like, oh man, I feel great. I'm more aware. The clarity and my mental was amazing. I feel so much more clear now. Right. So it was that. I brewed all my yerba mate, which by the way, Coach JT is drinking the new stevia-based yerba mate, the peach flavor by Guyaki. I drink yerbas now, which are both stevia-based. So I had to brew all my own caffeine, which was annoying, if I'm honest with you. But that was mainly the plan for it was a while. You know, I did that plan, and then you had me going into carb cycling, which was every other day. I could have starchy carbs. I think was it once or twice a day.
Slow digesting carbs.
Excuse me. That's so sweet potatoes or yams or something like that. And then after that, it's 80-20 maintenance. Yeah. Which like I went out for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I had some chips and guac.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can eat normal when I'm out. I could have the foods I want to eat. And then basically what happens is if I balloon up to past 175, I just go right back down to phase 1.
To reset.
Boom. Yep. Broccoli, chicken breast.
Yep.
Avoiding the starchy carbs. And then 20% of the time I can eat what I want.
Yeah. So that was your approach, right?
Yeah.
And everyone is different, by the way. A lot of it has to do with likes, dislikes, times you eat, whether you're a good faster or not. Not everyone is a good faster.
Sure.
So what determines a good faster is someone who can fast for 16, 22-hour protocol and then come back and not take out a small village, right? Because that's the thing with a lot of these fasters, they fast and then they feast. And then they wonder why they don't lose weight.
Yeah, because you're still in a caloric surplus.
Oh, yeah. So, the idea, what you mentioned there was initially in phase 1, it's reset. Reset is the most conservative phase in our program, right? The idea there is not just to shift the scale, but actually to shift your brain, right? Hence the reason you said what you said. You said, once I got through the first couple of days, that process we call fat adaptation, when you actually go from burning sugar to burning fat, you feel crappy in that time. But then once you come out of that, you get increased energy, awareness, right? Your taste buds are super alive. So the sugary, salty things that you used to eat before, you no longer like. That's a game changer. Yeah. Because at that point, I don't have to tell you, I no longer have to tell you, don't eat this or don't eat that. Your affections have changed. Yeah. And that's super powerful. Yeah.
Right? Things taste so much sweeter now.
Yeah.
It's like overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then the stuff that's super savory is also overwhelming now.
100%. So the idea there in phase 1 is not just phase 1 is a big shaker and mover from a physiological standpoint, from a cognitive standpoint, and dialing in your systems, right? So a lot of things happen there in the first 6 to 8 weeks. Everyone is different, so timelines are very different. But let's just say for the most part, it's 6, 4, and 2. 6 weeks of reset, 4 weeks of reboot, and then 2 weeks of XL. XL is your maintenance phase, right? So what we're looking to do there is initially we take out starches, right? So we move starches out of the way. We bring in fibrous carbs, plenty of fibrous carbs,
and that's because we don't want to spike the blood sugar.
Everything that you eat spikes
some degree of blood sugar, but not to the point where.
But we're looking for fibrous carbs which have a very low glycemic response, right? Same thing with protein. The reason we can get away with protein is one of the great properties in protein is that it's very satiating, but it doesn't spike a lot of insulin, right? So it keeps us full, and hence the reason this is how we mitigate the hunger oftentimes, right? We also bring in good fats because fats are a more reliable source of energy than carbohydrates are. You see, people think
this is the slight ketosis part.
People think that they need a ton of starches in order to have energy or feel good. That's not true.
It's so not true. I don't have that many carbs now.
Right. And so the reason you need so many carbs is because you're addicted. But once you get over your addiction, you realize you don't need as many, but you need to bring in a source of fuel. The most reliable source of fuel is good fats. Olive oil, coconut oil, avocados, yolks. I love Udu's oil, omegas 3, 6, and 9. Super powerful, keeps you satiated. You don't have the cravings. You don't crash. You actually have more energy. I have people texting me all the time, man, I don't need my mid-afternoon coffee anymore. I feel great. I go all day. I have people that call me and say, man, I can't even fall asleep. I have so much energy. Crazy.
Yeah, we were calling that tiger's blood in Whole30. That phase is called tiger's blood. Yeah. So so I think the entire program was amazing. I've gotten your book for a bunch of folks that are like, oh, they may not be able to bring you on as a coach, but like read this.
Right.
And I think that it's something that I feel like has a solid on-ramp for most people. Most people can walk through this. Now, there is prep. You gotta be ready to meal prep.
Sure.
You gotta have your chicken ready. You gotta have your food ready. You're not gonna wing this. Like, you gotta be prepared. And then I'll tell you about my first mishap. But if you want to add to anything in terms of the prep for it.
Yeah. So I walk with people. I work with people of all walks of life. Right. I walk with the busy professionals that say, I just don't have the time to meal prep. Right. I disagree. Everyone has the time. We make time for whatever is important. But that being said, we've teamed up with meal prep companies. It's doable through meal prep companies. We pride ourselves in saying that we teach people how to meal prep in 60 to 90 minutes a week, which is, come on, everyone has 60 to 90 minutes. So we teach them how to do that. Inside of our organization, we have the PDFs on how to do that, on how to eat at restaurants, how to eat at planes, airports, holidays, weekends, peer pressure. How do we deal with all those things? How do we get healthy, while, we have an array of people around us that are just being crazy with food and putting food in front of us, right? So, we've worked all the angles and all the components that we know are very challenging for people. So yes, I would say that if you meal prep, I know that people that meal prep, 99% of them do amazing on the plane. If you're having to figure it out every single time you have to eat, most likely you're going to fall into some mishaps.
Because you don't got the systems.
Yeah, you have to have food on deck, right? You have to have food on deck.
I would say you have to eat before you're hungry sometimes.
Okay, so that's another part, right? So bro science says that you have to eat every 3 to 4 hours to keep your metabolism fast.
Yep.
That's a lie.
Yep.
It's not true for everyone, right? For most people, actually. So the reason we're eating every 3 hours and not going more than 4 hours without eating, keeping that cadence, is because we don't want people to get overly hungry. Because when they get overly hungry, they make mistakes.
Start doing stupid stuff.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of the same concept of the an IV. Right. You have that cadence, that drip. That drip is basically to stabilize you. Right. This is what we do every 3 to 4 hours, is stabilize you so you make better choices. You're never over hungry, and your willpower is way better.
Yep. That's good. That's good. Is there anything we're leaving out?
I mean, there's a lot. Let
me tell you about my mishap.
Sure.
So mishap number one, I'm a month into the plan. We're moving to this place. We just moved in January. We're moving. I don't have food on deck. It's just, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna cheat. Like I know I'm gonna cheat. It's been a month. I think I was down maybe like 10, 15 pounds at that point. And you're like, hey man, like you really shouldn't cheat until you got like a solid 20 pounds under your belt.
Right.
And I was like, but I don't have nothing to eat. And so so we moved from San Marcos to Vista. This is a new area, or was a new area for me. I didn't really know any of the food spots. And I end up going to a Mexican place, which is Southern California. Man, Southern California is known for our Mexican food. I end up going to a Mexican place, and I have a California burrito, which is carne asada, French fries or potatoes,
and a lot of salt,
guacamole, and maybe some sour cream, maybe not, salsa fresca. And man, I felt so terrible, and it was such a want. Like I was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the email from you on the stuff will fall in the spam on how to eat out.
Yeah.
And since then, my go-to meal when I'm on the go is Chipotle, salad bowl, double chicken, one steak, guacamole, and sometimes I have a little bit of cheese, and I'll literally tell them a little bit of cheese.
Yeah.
That is the cheat meal now, or if I don't have meal prep, and that completely alleviates all of it. So it's like I didn't know how to eat out, and then like once I figured that out, then I was like, oh, this is a game changer. Like I could just have Chipotle when I'm out, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we had a whole controversy of Chipotle is better than Chick-fil-A because of the avocado.
I saw that. So, I think one of the things that we haven't touched on is the fact that sodium, right? So what's the deal with sodium?
Yeah.
Because people all the time are like, well, what's the deal with sodium? Why are we taking sodium out?
Was it? Okay, let me ask you this. I just thought it was a psychological thing. I just thought if I'm not having sodium, that the number's going to go down faster. I'm going to build that momentum. It's like the debt snowball following Dave Ramsey's plan.
Yeah.
I paid off a credit card and I paid off another credit card, right?
Yeah.
And so the psychology of the debt snowball makes you more excited about it. So I just thought it was more of a psychology thing.
In part. But truly, the idea behind eliminating sodium in your first 6 weeks has more to do with the fact that when your brain doesn't have sugar, it craves salt. When it doesn't have salt, it craves sugar. Right?
Interesting. Okay.
So your brain is, it's a machine. It can segment things, and it knows where to how to scratch the itch. So if you cut out the sugar, you start getting all these cravings for salt. Right? You cut out the salt, you get all these cravings for sugar.
Interesting.
So if you cut out the sugar and the salt, you starve it.
Yeah, that's good.
So now you no longer really need it. And then you reset your palate because that's what needs to happen. The reason you eat what you eat is because you've developed, right, that flavor for that taste for it.
That's good.
Right?
Yep.
You've acquired that taste.
Yep.
You have to de-acquire that taste.
Yep.
And that can be done, but it takes a little bit, and you have to take yourself into that point of abstinence from sodium.
Yeah, that's good.
That has to happen.
That's helpful. And then I would say not strength training was weird.
Yeah,
not strength training was weird. And I'm just now really getting back in the groove of like consistently strength training. But I just learned to love the hour on the elliptical, brain check out, throw on a show or watch some YouTube stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I was going sometimes 6-7 days a week because I just enjoyed that, and I'd never done that. If I'm honest, I've never done, because you said my heart rate was between 115 and I think 135 was the top end.
Slow burn cardio. Yeah,
slow burn cardio.
Okay, so this is an interesting part. This is a very controversial thing that we do that often most coaches, gurus, fitness people are like, I can't believe your coach is telling you not to strength train. Okay, well, I get that part. I train myself 3-4 days a week. I love training. I'm an advocate for training, but there's a place and a time for everything, right? We are very limited in the mental energy that we have. Our bandwidth is limited, right? It's not unlimited. You wake up, I always use the example of the phone. You go to sleep, you plug your phone in. When you wake up, you have a full charge. As soon as you unplug it, you start emailing, texting, calling, you deplete that energy. Same thing when you wake up. You deal with your kids, your wife, your business, you start depleting energy. So if you go into this plan and I tell you, you got to work out 3 days a week. Okay. Here's your plan. By the way, you got to segment these muscle groups. These are the exercises. Make sure you train like this. Make sure you train like that. And then on top of that, you have to do your cardio. Here's how you do your cardio. Here's your heart rate. Then on top of that, I tell you, here's how you have to eat. And that drains you. And you still got to go to work. Right? So it's too much. But instead, if I give you the thing that's going to bring the biggest return on investment in the shortest period of time, and I have you laser focus on that, then we build a really strong foundation, and then we transition to the fun stuff, right? But the mover and shaker is nutrition. And so that's the basis of it. Now, I have people that come on my program all the time and say, I train and I'm not going to stop training. Okay, we can make adjustments. Just know that you're going to have lots more temptations, triggers, and all those things because you're going to be overly hungry because of your caloric output.
I was going to say, because strength training seems to trigger the cravings more often.
Well, you're burning more calories, so you're going to be hungrier, right? On top of that, a lot of people will say, no, I can still train and not be hungry, right? But something really, really tricky happens, and that is that you either eat consciously or subconsciously. I can't tell you how many people on a weekly basis when we check in will report and their numbers don't look right. Now, I've been doing this for 23 years, so I can literally x-ray your diagnostic questions, see it, and know exactly what's happening. So I'll see people with a perfect diagnostic question.
Because that's what you send us on Saturdays, and we go over it.
Right.
How do you feel?
Right. Like, how many cardios would you eat? All the different questions, right? And then I'll see a perfect diagnostic response, but then your numbers didn't move that way. And then we'll start asking questions. Well, do me a favor, show me your journal. Or, hey, can you tell me what you're eating? And then sure enough, the two big foes are either condiments or fats. They're overdoing fats or they're overdoing condiments, right? And then, when you overeat condiments and sodium, a lot of it is water retention, which we're not really concerned. I mean, you can lose water retention in a day or two. But the idea there is that all of a sudden you start bringing those condiments in, you're not losing weight, you start to get disappointed. And so as, to piggyback off what you were saying, the whole psychological piece plays an important part. One of my big teachers, Alex Hormozy, and I was part of one of his masterminds. He would teach that one of the best ways to get people to do something is to show them quick results immediately. Right. The faster you can show someone results, the faster they become a believer. So, that has been the core of our offer. Hey, in 8 days, I will help you feel and look better than you've ever looked on any other diet. In 30 days, we can radically, you'll have to get a new wardrobe. And in 90 days, you won't even recognize yourself in the mirror.
Will they look like me? Will they look this good, JT?
I believe so, man. I believe so. Yeah.
I mean, this is radical for 90 days, 3 months.
100%.
It's massive.
And that's not a finished product.
That's not. I still got another, I would say about 5 to 7 more pounds to go. I want to lose the last little bit of this little gut right here.
Body fat, yeah.
If I can get under I say 12%. What do you think body fat is at this weight? I'm 170, so I'm between 170 and 172. I'm 5'10" and a half. If you had to give me your assessment.
I'm pretty close. I mean, they have called me the human DEXA scan. So I would say just from looking at that picture, you're probably you're gonna hate me for this, but I think you're probably right in that 16%. A lot of people will see themselves like that and they'll call me and say, oh, I'm about 10%. Not necessarily.
So for me, I would need to lose another, what'd you say, about 165, get under 165-ish, and then start adding muscle, like start really intentionally trying to get in a slight surplus, or do we stay in a slight deficit?
So I have people that I can tell you without the name. I'll tell you exactly this. I have someone that's going through my program right now. We got them to their fighting weight, meaning they don't need to lose any weight. She's super, she's short for a female. She's about 4'3", so she's really short. She's down to 100 pounds. She started like in the high 120s. She doesn't need to lose any more weight. She texted me this morning. She said, I still don't like the way my stomach looks. And I said, you're right, because the first thing to leave is is pounds, right? You lose weight, but then body fat is a whole different story. That takes a little longer. See, this is what proves to show the people that are really committed.
Yeah.
So you're going to see the ultimate results from that picture with consistency in 6 months.
Wow.
And when I say the real results, you will literally look like you can jump on stage.
Okay.
But it takes consistency.
Yeah.
A lot of people crack at that point, or they become complacent because they're like, I look fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not trying to get on a stage, JT.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, let me. I want to show you 2 videos. We're going to react to Alex Hormozi's diet, and then I want to show you this video, and then we're going to go to some questions from the chat in our exclusive Patreon segment. So this is an influencer named James Smith, and he gets into this is a video called "This is Why You Don't Have a Six-Pack." Okay, and I wanted to tell you my motivation for this, and maybe the spiritual implication of it.
Sure.
But let me play this for you, and then tell me if you need me to turn it up.
That more often than not explains
Yeah, hold on, let me turn this up a little bit. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna play right here.
lack of motivation we often face. In the back of all of our minds, we have these dreamboat physiques of what we would aspire to potentially maybe look like one day, although we know deep down in our subconscious we wouldn't. We've got the Mike Thurston, dreamy guy, and Matt Does Fitness. We've got Alex Hormozi even, and again, Chris Williamson. And I'm not going to discredit you. If you're willing to do the work, you could get those physiques as long as your training and nutrition was dialed up to 10 out of 10. And throughout my whole life, I've been positioned with this question, James, are you willing to do the work to have these kinds of physiques? And my answer is no, I'm not. It took me 10 years to figure this out, but I'm not willing to do the work. You know, I wanted to play rugby for England when I was younger. I would have done anything apart from get fit and not get pissed 3 times a week. My aspirations were playing international. I'm not going to give up living the best years of my life to do so. And then I realized my physique and probably my work life are probably a bit closer together than I'd imagine. I'm willing to work for 4 or 5 hours a day really hard, but not really anymore, even if it meant more money. And you'll know I love jiu-jitsu. I train 6 to 8 hours of jiu-jitsu a week, but am I willing to go compete every weekend? Absolutely not. I'm just not. I just don't want to. And I suppose I've probably done the maths in this respect. This is the only way I can explain it. If I was to double the amount I worked and double the amount of money I'd made, or even tripled it in that time, would my life change? Yeah, my house would be a bit bigger. You know, I'd probably go from business class to first class on a plane, but either way, I'm still laying down. I've still got to sit in the airport for 2 hours beforehand. Still got to go through the same immigration queue. The flight isn't quicker because I sat in a different part of the plane.
So he basically is just saying people don't get to that elite level with their fitness because at the end of the day, the sacrifice is not worth the reward, right? And so he's gonna watch this. Let's see, this is the last part right here.
All that extra effort for not that much change in my lifestyle. Does that make sense? So when you start doing the maths of the amount more effort and sacrifice you'd have, you know, less chocolate, less meals, more hunger, more emotional trauma from going to the fridge and realizing you're not allowed to eat food for what? The leanness to have a 6-pack and show it off. Cool. But if you do the maths of how often you've got your top off, it's not a good deal. And let's look at it this way. The majority of men, the dream is find a good woman. Every player will quit the game for the right woman. Fact. Settle down, have a family, have kids. The abs might help attract her, but they also might not. Because a lot of women see a ripped 6-pack and go, wow, that guy's nothing like me because I like to have sushi and a glass of red wine on a first date. And this guy's going to bring Tupperware and broccoli. And when you do find the dreams, you're probably going to relax a bit because those social occasions of foods and things you like to eat and drink, and you're going to do with that person. And let's be honest with ourselves. The majority of these physique aspirations we have are to impress other men, not women. Same reason we have Rolexes and we buy an AP. I bought an AP not to impress women. I did it to impress other guys. So when I'm skateboarding into the city centre, there's a guy in a fucking suit on his way into the city and he sees an AP. I want him to go, what the fuck does that guy do? I'm looking to impress other dudes. And we're doing the same with our pecs and our abs. We're just wandering around the gym trying to be alphas. So one of the biggest reasons that a lot of you watching this don't have abs or a 6-pack or a chiseled physique isn't your genetics or epigenetics or the environment or plastics in your water. It's that you deep down don't really want it enough. I don't think anyone's ever telling you this. But the time and the effort that really is required, you just don't want it enough. Because there has to be a balance. A bit like work-life balance. You can't stray too far to the edge of perfection. You've got that wanker online, Brian Johnson, trying to live to 200. He's taking 100 pills a day. The guy, in a bid to live forever, isn't living right now. For so many of you, you might be disappointed with the progress you're not making, and sit back and really ask yourself, what benefit would a 6-pack really attribute to life? The answer, not a lot. And the harsh reality that I came to realize is that giving up 80% of things that make me happy on a weekly basis for an 8-kilogram change in body weight just isn't a good deal. That's not body positivity. It's not fat acceptance. It's not promoting obesity. I'm just saying, if you're real with yourself, the idealism of attributing 10 out of 10 effort to diet and training, it's never going to happen. I love training. I'm probably up there on the training front, but the diet, I'm probably only halfway there. And it's the exact same reason I don't work all day, every day. It's the exact same reason I leave money on the table in business. because you got to live your life. And me being leaner or having a fucking six pack isn't going to change the things that make me happy on a daily basis. And I don't think they're going to change the things that make you happy on a daily basis. And I just don't know why no one ever told you that before.
All right. So I saw that and I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense. But this is my logic. And you tell me what you think. You can push back on this. I want to be in elite level shape because it's a game of doing something so hard that so few people do, that if I can do that, then I can do just about anything else out there. So it just becomes a benchmark of doing things that the average person doesn't want to do. Mm-hmm. Not to impress other dudes. I really don't care. Not to impress my wife. She's already my wife. We're already great. But to confirm to myself that like I can go the extra mile and get to a place that so few people get to. And now that I have the tools in my repertoire, I don't have to do it in this like completely deprive yourself of any joy, you know, of doing that. Not to be stage ready. I don't even plan to. I wouldn't do any type of bodybuilding competition. Right. I think I want to get to a level of, you know, I think the leanest I ever got was like 11% body fat. Mm-hmm. I want to get to that level because so few people can get to that level that it just becomes a game that I've done something that so few people can do. And I can do it in still 80-20.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's my, I want to hear what's your thoughts on that video and my logic to all of that.
Yeah. So I want to touch on some of the things that he said. And this guy, I mean, he makes a lot of valid points, right? I mean, he made me laugh because he talked about his wife, and, you know, I impress my wife more when I empty out the dishwasher than when I walk around without a shirt. Right. Yeah. So I've learned that. Right. He's strictly talking about an aesthetic destination. And I always tell people, if that is your main goal, you will fail and you will not sustain it. Mm-hmm. But when your goal, maybe as a mom, is to leave a legacy, a healthy legacy for your kids, then that will last. Yeah. Right. When as a male, your goal is to push and create another lever in life, then that's very motivating because you realize, you know what, if I can push through this pain, and pain is pain. So what the beautiful thing about exercise is that when you exercise and you put your body through pain, you teach yourself how to suffer. And those that can suffer longer do better than those that don't. Yeah. So it's a huge motivation lever for all areas of our life. It helps us expand. You look at, you know, if you've ever read Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, he was huge on exercise. It was one of his pillars, right? Now, you know, we can disagree on a lot of things with him, but the truth is that he was a person that was interested in living at the top. He was a high-functioning human being. Sure. I believe that a high-functioning human being that can tame his hunger, activate his physiology, can crush anything in life. Because one of the most tangible ways of getting better is activating your physiology and taming your hunger. Now, with that being said, I'm a Christian, right? I believe in grace, faith in Jesus Christ. I know that is the number one thing. But from my experience, when people tell me, JT, because I've only been a Christian for 13, 14 years, right? And I came on board and learned and devoured the Bible and, you know, and do it every single day. How do you do that? Yep. I can do that because I know how to be disciplined. And I know how to apply myself. Guess what taught me that?
Faith.
Exercise. Yeah. Exercise taught me discipline. So when I understood the importance,
it was the opposite for me.
Right.
It was the faith aspect taught me
exercise. But look at your background, right? Yeah. You look at my background and look at your background.
Different. Yeah.
So we have a tendency to go for our strengths.
Yeah.
And from our strengths, we tackle our weaknesses.
That's good.
So my strength was physiology. So I was like, wait a second. I know that if I'm consistently showing up every day at the gym, I'm going to get some results. So I showed up consistently to read my Bible every day. I've never put it down. I take my Bible everywhere I go. I don't care if I have to leave clothes out because it doesn't fit in the back. I have to bring my Bible.
That's good.
Right? Sometimes I read the same thing over and over and over again. But I understand that principle. That principle was learned through physiology and taming my hunger. Right? I remember once being in this was a church back in Tampa, and everyone was going through a fast and everyone was complaining. The very first time I fasted as a Christian, I fasted until I got cramps in my legs and I couldn't walk anymore.
Jeez.
Right? And the reason I did that was because I knew I had the ability to really focus and discipline myself and tame my hunger.
Yeah.
I did it for full 3 days, water.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
Right? And I stopped because my legs were cramping.
Yeah.
But not because I was hungry.
It's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I think that deeper motivator, I think I don't know. I think it's to unlock. I love what you said about legacy. One of the things I joke about is I said, I want my son, I want my 8-year-old to see me as a superhero.
100%.
Not as a sloppy dude with a beer belly, and I don't even drink beer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I have a jungle gym in the back of my house, and I have a gym inside of my studio. And I intentionally train at a time where my daughters can see me, right? Because I want them to grow up understanding the importance of taking care of your temple from a stewardship perspective.
Yep.
So we have a lot of these conversations. Daddy, why do you train so much? Daddy, I want to be strong like you. And I always bring it back. And I'm like, the number one thing you need to be strong in is your faith. Because from there, everything else will work.
Come on.
I say the reason you see me out there every day is because this goes way beyond looking a certain way, right? I truly believe that as a Christian, and if I claim to have the spirit that raised Jesus from the dead within me, then I have to have self-control, and whatever I tackle, I have to tackle with excellence.
Good.
I can't say that I have the Spirit of God living in me. Now, we all fall short. It's not that I don't fall short and I don't do things. I still have a lot of places where I can grow.
Yeah.
But man, to the best of my ability, I want to show up and I want to look different and I want to act different. And I don't want to have to say I'm a Christian. I want to show that with my actions and the way I live.
Yeah, that's good. Let me jump into this Alex Hormozi clip. You know Alex a bit. This is his diet revealed. All right, so let's check this out.
Virtually every night for 20 years, I have never skipped dessert, and I've been able to maintain a six-pack for that entire period of time. I have done a lot of different diets, keto stuff. I've done high carb, I've done low carb, I've done high fat, I've done intermittent fasting, alternate day fasting, carnivore style eating, whatever. The last 10 years, I've pretty much eaten the exact same way, be able to have business dinners, be able to have drinks. Many of the entrepreneurs that I know who've seen me eat and have been around me a long time end up adopting this and they never go back. What I'm not saying is this is the most scientifically researched, whatever. I'm just sharing what worked for me. If something works for you, just keep doing that. Number one is you have to figure out what your goal is. You're either trying to
So his whole thing here is that he has dessert every day.
Okay. You want
Am I gonna address the elephant in the room here with Alex Hormozi? Yeah. It is alleged and rumored that there's some other things going on in terms of his physiology, and those other things create faster nutrient absorption.
Yeah.
For the extra things that are being incorporated into his repertoire of stuff.
Yeah. So, yes, I definitely want to dig into this, but I want to preface the conversation with this. I have a lot of respect for that man. He's brought a lot of great things to our business. I was a gym lord with him. I still to this day use a lot of his things. On the way here, I actually read the entire book.
$100 million offers.
Yep. I read the entire thing in my 5-hour trip here.
Yep.
So I love everything he's doing. First of all, I think we need to mention the fact that he's an outlier, right? He's a brilliant man. He's a disciplined guy. He's a guy who, when he works out, he probably burns 1,200 or 1,500 calories. So he intentionally creates a deficit that way. So he doesn't have to diet like most people have to diet.
Yep.
And then we can't bypass the idea, and he's a pretty honest guy, that there's some chemicals involved.
Has he opened up about that?
No, but one of his things is to be very straightforward and tell you to your face. And I'm sure if you asked him,
I'm shocked no one's asked.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have asked him.
Yeah.
And he has an extensive vocabulary and a lot of ways to go around in circles and answer the question without answering it. But I mean, I've been in the industry long enough. Those arms are not from spinach. Okay?
All right, let me play the rest of this video.
get bigger, you're trying to get smaller. From there, you start at number 7 all the way up to 21. My videographers will put it right here, 7 to 21. And every 3, you go from extreme weight loss to moderate weight loss to maintenance to moderate weight gain to extreme weight gain. All you have to do is multiply your body weight. So I'm gonna use 200 pounds as my average because it's easy with math. So let's say I'm a 200 pound guy and I wanna get leaner. I'm gonna go to moderate cut, which is the second from the bottom here of these 3, which you've got 10, 11, 12. And I'm gonna say 10 because it's easy math. And so I'm gonna multiply 200, which is my weight, times 10, which is this coefficient, which gives me, drumroll please, 2,000 calories, all right? Now, if you're like, doesn't it change? Or what about my exercise? And what if I have a physical job? Doesn't really matter. If you lose too much weight too fast, go to 11. You can adjust it. We've got 2,000 calories. Great. Here's step 3. You multiply your weight, 200 pounds again, you multiply it by 1. Really hard math. Means 200 grams of protein. Some of the science nerds are gonna be like, you can only metabolize 0.7 grams per. don't give a shit. Every pound of lean meat, white fish, ground turkey breast, 96 foreground beef, shrimp, whatever. A pound is 100 grams of protein. So if you need 200 grams, you need 2 pounds. And that's if you exclusively ate meat. I tend to eat over my 1 gram per pound. I like eating protein. It fills me up. I feel good on it. That's why I do it. If you don't eat as much, don't. Now we're back to the math. This is the last math equation.
I like that part. I like the simplicity of get 2 pounds of, meat a day.
Yeah.
Super simple, 100 grams of protein per your ideal body weight. I think all that stuff is great. And you did that. We did that in your program with 24 ounces of lean meat every day, 8 ounces 3 times a day.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we also need to address the fact that that long term is not the healthiest thing to do.
That much protein is not healthy?
Well, here's the thing, right? So your digestive enzymes, as time goes by and you get older, their functionality starts to decrease.
Okay.
Right. So you don't have the same ability to metabolize like you do in your 20s and 30s and when you're 40 and 50.
Okay.
Right. So this is not sustainable long term. Now, going back to my experience with Alex, if you see Alex's change, his dramatic change in his physique, when I was in gym launch and I was one of his gym lords, I used to have all his videos, right? Watching all his, he was a normal looking guy. He lifted weights, but he looked very normal. Yeah. Right. And then all of a sudden, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, he transformed. Right. He looks, and one of the things I always used to mention in his videos inside of Gym Lunch, they weren't well produced. Right. And that was a big thing for me because I was like, man, I'm paying all this money to be here. These aren't, the information was there. They just weren't well produced.
Sure.
He would always have this, he would always burp in his videos.
Interesting.
Right. He always had this reflux.
Okay.
Right? Which is really, really popular with bodybuilders that are constantly taxing their digestive system.
Interesting.
Right. So I can tell, you can look at this and I mean, look at Dr. Fung will tell you that a person that is constantly taxing their digestive system will not live long.
Interesting. So your issue is this is too much protein for most people?
This is something he can do now. I mean, think of it. Alex is in his 30s.
Yeah.
He's young.
Yeah.
Right. If he continues to eat like that.
In terms of the protein, just the protein alone, you think it's too much protein?
I think that the levels of protein are pretty high.
Okay.
He's metabolizing them well because I'm presupposing that he's on some chemicals.
Sure. That
when you're on that stuff, you burn through food.
So how many grams of protein or ounces would you recommend a day for an average guy like me, 170 pounds? I want to, get a little leaner. And so I'm usually having about 170 grams of protein a day.
So the knee-jerk response is a pound of protein per pound of weight. This is what they're telling you if you want
a gram of protein.
Yeah. If you want to gain muscle.
Sure.
Right. So if you're 170 pounds, 170 grams
of protein, which is not too far from what he's saying.
Right. Right. I mean, what he's saying is fine.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not arguing with what he's saying. What he's saying is true. He's very knowledgeable about nutrition. That's how he started making money. Right. Yeah. Creating plans for people.
Yeah.
So the problem is we're talking about health and long-term health. Right. I promise you that the way he's eating now, he will not be eating that way at 45 and 50.
Got you.
Right.
Yeah.
Things are going to have to change.
Yeah.
Things are going to have to change. Look at Arnold.
Yeah, true.
Look at Arnold.
Potentially the amount of protein he's eating may have to decrease.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to be able to metabolize it. He's going to start having digestive issues.
Yeah.
Maybe, what is this? Gout and all these different things that come from inflammatory foods. Right. And so you see that a lot of these bodybuilders, and listen, I don't advocate one thing or the other. I'm not dogmatic about nutrition. I have vegans, vegetarians that come on my program. We adjust them. We help them. They lose weight. They look great. But the truth is that as you get older, right, you need to really, really start thinking about what makes me feel good and not what makes me look good. Right. He's very much about his aesthetic destination. He wants to look a certain way. Right. He's always said it. Alex has a lot of challenges that he's overcome, but he's still, he has this desire to look a certain way and be perceived a certain way, which he's mentioned that bothers him.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to be that way.
Yeah.
And so I think his physique for him is a big point of certainty.
Yeah.
And of control and power.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm the alpha male in the room. And there will come a point where he'll have to stop eating that way and doing what he's doing.
Yeah, let me play some more of this. That's very fascinating.
We have 2,000 calories, and we know we have to eat 200 grams of protein. All you have to do is figure out what 2 pounds of meat you want to eat, or where you want to get your 200 grams of protein from, and figure out how many calories are in that thing. These 2 pounds of meat are both turkey. I eat turkey for both meals. Crazy. These are both 560. I know that that's 1120. That's how many calories I have of protein that I eat in my day. So I subtract my calories associated with those meals from my 2,000 in this example, and I would have 880 calories left over. Those 880 calories, here's the magic of how this works. You can do whatever you want. If you need to go out to a business dinner, you want to have drinks, cool. Well, cocktail's probably 150 calories. Have 2 of those and have a 500 calorie meal of whatever you want. Because again, you've already got your protein. You could just stay at home and have an entire pint of ice cream that's 880 calories. Or
Now here's the thing with this is there's no way I would be able to just have speaking for me, I couldn't do that. It would be, I would want some carbs, and then I don't know, like my wife can have like just a little bit of ice cream. I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to want the extra, and then I'm going to crave it more and more and more. And so I think that's the part maybe he's not factoring in I don't know how many people can have just the exact amount of calories in said thing.
He's talking for himself because he's very disciplined and he can do that. The vast majority of people can't do that for an extended period of time. The other thing is, what he's not considering is the fact that he's always going to be addicted to sugar, right? He's never going to get over that. He might be okay with it because he'll say, well, I'm getting the food I want. I'm doing what I want. I can have the drinks. I can have the meals. And that's more important to me than actually getting over the addiction. For most people, that's not the case. For most people are interested in kicking the addiction,
absolutely,
controlling it, being able to eat healthy and still be able to enjoy it from time to time, because it's actually more enjoyable when you do it from time to time.
Yep. That's good. We play the rest.
Each of these cookies is probably 400 calories. You can have 2 of them, and that could be your.
See, I'm not having 2 cookies, man. There's no way I'm ever having just 2 cookies.
Here,
we're having minimal 6 cookies. Minimal 6.
So Dr. Perlmutter, that wrote the book Grain Brain, says that when you eat something that doesn't agree with your stomach, you get a stomach ache. When you eat something that doesn't agree with your brain doesn't shoot off a signal, and you continue to do it until you put holes in your brain. Hence the reason most Americans have cognitive issues after the age of 60.
Sheesh.
It's based on their diets that are high in sugar, aka carbohydrates, aka desserts.
Yeah.
Your dinner. It doesn't matter. And mind you, that's with a cut. That's with me trying to lose a pretty significant amount of weight. Now I actually maintain, because we're going to this third chunk, right? In this 13 to 15 chunk, if I multiply my body weight, I'm more than 200, but let's just say it's 200 for math's sake, times 15, 3,000 calories. So I would have an extra 1,000 calories on top of that 1,000 if I did that same thing. Instead of having 2 of these cookies, I could have like 5 of these cookies for dinner, or I could have 2 of these bites and still have some food. I eat the same breakfast and lunch every day. I start my day with, let's call it a 200 calorie bar, you call it a brownie, it doesn't matter. If I'm traveling, I might not have this with me, I'll grab a Quest bar at the airport, right? 200 calories and 20 grams of protein, one of those bars. And then I have a shake, and this is 30 grams of protein and 160 calories. I'm in for 360 calories for my breakfast. I got 50 grams of protein knocked down already. Then I go to my lunch. I have a pound of turkey, which we already know is 560, and I actually only eat half of one of these guys. 1 cup of rice. I now have 150 grams of protein and 1140 in terms of calories that I've eaten so far. Mind you, I have 3,000 calories just to maintain. All right, not bad. So now I go to dinner. Dinner is the big flex meal for me. Now, I also tend to eat a pound of protein at dinner. Do I need to? Absolutely not. Do I want to? Absolutely. I love eating protein. I feel good when I eat meat. If you did it, let's say you were 150 pounds and you'd already eaten 150 grams of protein up to this point, your entire dinner could be whatever you want. Pretty cool, all right? As long as it equaled out to the total amount of calories you want. And I do this also because then I'm full. If I just eat cookies, I'm usually not full.
And this is based on a presupposition that all calories are built the same, and they're not.
They're not.
And all calories built the same at the same time of day. They're not.
They're not.
The way this would sit at me at night is going to be different than the way this sits at me after I go do cardio.
Let this blow your mind. Your performance will be radically different. So I see a guy like this, like he obviously, we can't argue that, he's a high performer and what he does well.
Yep.
I wonder what would happen if he actually cleaned up his diet and he didn't do that, how much better he would perform. Because when you think of take a Kit Kat bar, right? Let's just call it 600 calories, right? Let's just say a Kit Kat bar big enough to have 600 calories. You put that side by side with a lean piece of, let's call it sirloin steak, right? 600 sirloin steak, 600 Kit Kat. The way those two 600 calories are absorbed are radically different, right? The insulin.
According to Alex Hormozy, though, it's the same. It's just 600 calories.
And every other macro counter will tell you that, right? Every other macro counter will tell you that. As long as you get your macros right, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Okay. that's if you want to look a certain way, but not perform a certain way.
That's good.
This has worked for a very long time. I actually had a couple of guys stop me and say, dude, you made this nutrition video and like I lost 50 pounds using it. Like, thanks so much. I get a bunch of DMs about this stuff. And so this is really what I eat every day. So if you're like, where's your greens? I have a multivitamin and I continue to stay alive. And guys, I stayed away from fitness stuff mostly because like there's all these armchair debates and like, I just don't care. If you want, I can do a part 2 on how I train as an entrepreneur. It's different than if you were like a pro bodybuilder or a strongman or a powerlifter or Olympic lifter or just a normal gym rat. I can make that a second video, put it in the comments. If not, just enjoy this one.
Anyway, I wanted to show you that because he's kind of known for this, you know, just eat 2 pounds of meat a day and everything. I don't think this would ever work for me. I would probably feel terrible doing this. And I surprisingly like leafy greens and broccoli now.
That's good.
You know,
That's good.
Throw some broccoli in an air fryer, a little bit of Primal Kitchen sauce.
Yeah.
I feel amazing.
You acquired the taste. Yeah. Game changer.
Yeah. So anyway, any final thoughts on that before we move on to some of these questions?
Yeah, I mean these videos where you can teach people how to do things fast. I mean, I just read his book, and that's the premise of it. You know, make it seem accessible, make it easy, make it quick, and people will buy it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm more interested in doing the work because I know long term it's you know, I just turned 45 and I'll probably be doing exactly what I'm doing now, the way I train, the way I eat until the day the Lord calls me.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. All right, guys, we're going to go over to our Patreon exclusive. I'm going to see if I can get some more secrets out of JT in terms of how to make this process faster. And we're going to be answering some questions within our community as well. All right. So we got a question from one of our online premium partners, as well as one of our moderators. Her name is Future. She says, how do you feel about modifying macros or recommended foods depending on body type, age, gender, etc.? For instance, some women do better with slightly higher fat and protein and low carbs. So it sounds like the question is like modifying for gender. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone needs something different for sure. I think the question really is, what kind of lifestyle do you have? Are you someone who trains? Are you someone who just does cardio? What's your outcome? Like, what are you trying to do? If you're just the person that says, look, I just want to eat healthy and I don't want to move, then it's pretty straightforward. But if you're more a complex human being, you train, you want to look a certain way, then that requires something very different. So I'm not exactly sure what she's looking to accomplish, but I would say that I'll answer both. If you're just the person that's looking to be healthy, then yes, it does require something very different for a female, right, than it would for a male.
Okay.
If you're complex, you're looking to look a certain way, you know, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
It's a whole different animal. Yeah.
What do you think about this blood type diet stuff? Is that nonsense?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I believe it's one of the biggest gimmicks and one of the biggest hooks. It's one of my pet peeves when people come to the program. They're like, oh, because I'm XYZ blood and I should eat. Come on now. No.
Yeah.
I think it's very gimmicky.
Yeah.
I think it's a great marketing hook.
Yeah. What do you? Because I have some folks that are like, I remove the conscience and environmental aspect away from it, but I got some folks that are like, man, meat doesn't sit well on me. I just can't get it. And I'm like, dude, it's probably the junk you're eating with the meat and not the meat.
Yeah.
Like if you're having lean meat, I don't know. I don't understand how somebody could have lean meat not sit well on them, or like chicken not sit well on them, give them headaches or whatever. And so there's some people that actually argue that, and then they want to then become vegetarians or vegans, which again, remove the how you feel about animals. And like, I had a puppy and then I thought about like, oh my gosh, we kill cute animals and eat them, right? Like, remove that aspect of it. Yeah. But like, is there anything to that? Like, some people just, meat doesn't sit well on them and therefore they want to be vegan or vegetarian.
I think if that were true, I don't think we would be where we are now. That because humans started eating animals and plants. That's what we've always eaten, right? That paleo diet, right? I think that there's a lot of documentary vegans and vegetarians out there. Can I explain what that is?
Sure.
This is a person that over the weekend sees a documentary like Game Changers.
Like Builders Strong. Wait, is that movie? Yeah, the Game Changers doc.
And what I try to educate my people on is, look, every documentary has an agenda.
Yep.
And they have three angles, right? They have, the environment, right? So if you're an environmental person, boom, they got you.
Yep.
right? The morals. Oh, if you kill animals and you're highly, moral,
Sure,
then
sure.
they got you.
Sure.
And then they have the health, right? And then they give you all these examples on these athletes, like the 1%ers that do really well on these days. Now, once again, I'm not dogmatic, and I have people in my program that are vegans, vegetarians, so I want to respect those people as well. If that's what you've decided to do because you've educated yourself, and because you truly, truly feel good, then good for you, right? I have no problem with that, whatever angle you come from, right? But the truth is that a lot of the fixations on I don't need animals because this or that are just subconscious moral ideas that people create. But from and then again, if you don't have the taste buds for meat, then you're not going to enjoy it. Yeah. And if you eat it the first time, you probably don't have the digestive enzymes to break it down, and you don't feel good. When we were on the plane, I talked to a girl that was sitting right next to me. I saw her eating her food, and I said, "Are you a vegetarian?" She said, "No, I eat chicken and fish, but I don't eat meat." She said, I've never tried it. She says, I think if I eat it, it would probably send me straight to the bathroom. Yeah. I'm sure it would.
Yeah. Yep. That's good. Yeah. I've never understood that. I've never understood that. Yeah. And again, there's different reasons for it, but the idea of that.
Let me add something. Here's what's interesting. And then people are like, oh, wait, but that doesn't make sense. God forbid I had a terminal disease, right? If I got cancer, I would stop eating meat. Because meat, right, basically creates growth. This is why bodybuilders eat it. So if I have a tumor growing in me, I don't want that tumor to grow.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So this is where the vegans get this argument about red meat is carcinogenic.
Yeah.
No, red meat is not carcinogenic. That's been debunked many times over in medical reviews and books that are out there that are looking deeply into these things, and that's been debunked, right? But if you have a tumor growing in you and you continue to eat red meat or meat, period, there's a growth factor. You don't want that tumor to grow.
That's good.
So then you become vegan.
That's good. That's interesting. Okay, so that's helpful. Cons of keto, regular keto, because I think anybody that I've seen do keto, they usually gain and lose real fast.
Yeah.
But then it's also anchored on like eating cheese and like bacon and like high amounts of it. You know what I mean? That can't be good for you, right?
So I think keto has a great component, and that's the first 6 or 8 weeks of keto are good.
Yeah.
I don't think living a keto lifestyle, as a matter of fact, most people don't stay on keto forever.
Yeah.
Most people will always go back to eating some form of carbs, just like vegans and vegetarians that all of a sudden become vegans or vegetarians. Eventually they bring meat back because they don't feel right.
Yeah.
So when we were looking at the Empty Your Bucket plan, we didn't want to be a full keto. We didn't want to bring people into ketosis. It can be dangerous for some people to go into a full-blown ketosis. And it's not sustainable long term.
Sure.
It's a sprint strategy, but it's not a long term strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have bacon?
I have bacon from time to time,
Gotcha.
depending on where I am. So the hotel we're staying in this morning put out eggs and put out sausage. Yeah. I ate the eggs and the sausage, but I skipped out on the oatmeal.
Got you. What about do you have dairy?
I like ghee.
Yeah.
I like ghee.
Butter?
Butter. I put it in my coffee.
Yeah.
In the mornings.
But if you say lettuce wrap burger, would you have it with cheese?
But as a cheat meal?
Yeah.
100%.
No, not just cheat meal. Just like say you're going through In-N-Out, you're in California.
If I'm going to In-N-Out, I'm going to
have the full
I'm going to cheat day. So 100%.
All right. Respect.
I got to do it
So
right.
normally you would not have dairy if you're on the plan. Like if you're trying to be strict.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
What about the little bit of cheese I had? Like I literally ask them a little bit of cheese in my Chipotle bowl.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's not going to affect you if it sits well with you.
Yeah.
I know people that eat dairy and they're sick for days.
Got you.
So,
all right, we got a final question here. I'm concerned about the effects of running on my joints. I used to run about 5 miles a day during COVID. Never ran before, but I'm concerned about long-term effects just looking to stay fit. That's a great question. Effects of running on your joints. What do you think? I got real bad arthritis in both knees.
Yeah.
I had a knee surgery back in September, and I'm probably done doing anything with high impact stuff. I wish I didn't play so much basketball because I feel like now would probably if I didn't do so much stuff when I was a kid, now I could probably enjoy like the leisure of a nice jog. But like it just doesn't feel right on me. What do you think?
So I'm a former soccer player,
Yeah.
right? So I ran for many, many, many years. You can't pay me to run now, but I enjoy getting the high.
Okay.
I like the runner's high, and I think a lot of people are addicted to that high.
Yeah.
So first of all, for weight loss purposes, running is one of the most inefficient things. Number one, right? People will say, well, it's good, My camera guy likes to run to outdo his diet, right? I tell him all the time, you can't outrun a bad diet, right? And that's okay. That works for him.
Sure.
But I truly believe if it's for weight loss, the best thing you can do is actually walk.
Yep.
Because you can do it every day. It's low impact, but you won't get the runner's high. So I like the middle of it. I like slow burning for 45 minutes and then doing intervals for 15 minutes. So I do 35 seconds active, 35 seconds rest. Walking. So I walk, run like at a 60-70% for a minute, and then walk for another minute or 35-second intervals, depending on how I'm feeling.
I think I'm going to try hill walking up, hill walking down, and see how that feels, because I could kind of get the same thing.
That will not get that runner's high. You will not get the runner's high from that, but I mean, you'll bring your heart rate up higher. Now,
I feel like I get that elliptical high though, like just doing elliptical stuff. I feel pretty great afterwards.
I get a high from my slow burns. Okay, right? So the first thing I do,
because you're saying it's a different high when you're really running and okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's a different high.
Play similar to like basketball, like when I was playing ball.
Yeah. There's something great about running, right? It does so many things, so many good things for you. You're out in the environment, which is healthy. That alone is super healthy. Getting the high. But from a weight loss perspective, it's the worst thing you can do for your knees. It's horrible. It makes you look old faster. The collagen in your face will wipe out.
Jeez.
You will look older. I'm 45. Some of the wrinkles I have, the bags under my eyes, it comes from running.
Yeah.
That's from all the time I ran.
Just the sun damage, or what?
No,
do you
it's the collagen. Basically, the first thing to go, the fat to go, and the first fat to go is in your face. So a lot of times you see these runners, they just look aged.
That's interesting.
Right? And then their knees are beat up, and their lower back is beat up. And I see some older people running, but usually when I see an older person running, they didn't start running till they were in their 40s. So they still have that joint, flexibility there. But if you started running like me or you at 6 or 7 and you're now in your 30s, 40s, man, your days are counted for running.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, this has been good, man. I think we've touched on a lot of parts. I think ultimately the way to look at it, to bring everything in, I would say that this goes beyond weight loss. I'm a big fan of this from shifting your behavior. So I say that that whole thing about motion creates emotion. I also believe that it makes eating well, taming your hunger, and activating your physiology allows you to perform better. It allows you to stay healthier. And the truth is, what we want to do is not chase a metric. What we want to change is behavior. That's what we're interested in. That's the Empty Your Bucket plan. Yeah. So we believe that your identity is shifted by your behavior. If you want to be something, go do more of that, right? And so what we're looking to do throughout this process in a very stealth way, from a physiological standpoint at first, but more importantly from a cognitive standpoint, is change the way you think about food and movement. If we could shift that, then you can radically go from being a couch potato to being a super potato in no time, and break a quote unquote generational curse, which in practical terms is mimicking what you saw your parents doing.
Yep.
Because as a parent now, I understand that kids don't do what we tell them; they do what they see us doing.
That's good.
So if we want to shift that generation into a healthy generation that's cognizant about their food and their movement, then you got to start being a light in the midst of darkness and stepping up. That's what we're really interested in. Yeah.
I saw a meme and it said, obesity runs in my family. And the response was, no one runs in your family.
That's great.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Appreciate you guys. We'll have the link for Coach JT's program below. Reach out to him if you're interested. The book is on Amazon. And man, I'm excited to see you do more YouTube stuff as well. You've been crushing it on the YouTube end as well.
Thank you, brother.
All right, guys. Peace.